Hey guys, welcome to the last video on chapter 16. In this video we're going to look at family pedigrees and how traits are passed down from one generation to another using pedigrees. Okay, so let's get into it. Right, family pedigrees. Now, a pedigree is slightly different from the pedigree you're probably used to hearing in terms of with dogs and different breeds of dogs. A pedigree in this particular case is referring to a diagram showing the inheritance of a particular trait in a lineage. Okay, here is an example of a pedigree, and here are some of the key to the symbols that represent them. Okay, so it shows lineage. So there are different generations. The first generation is shown here by Roman numerals 1, second generation 2, and 3, and so forth and so forth. Okay, what you will notice is that circles will represent females and squares will represent males. And if an individual has a trait, it will be shaded in. So this individual here will have a particular trait that we're investigating, and so he's shaded in, and so does this individual. There's a few other things as well. So the mating line is represented by the horizontal line. The kids obviously in subsequent lines. Carriers are represented by a dot showing that they are heterozygous in the particular trait. Now, one thing to note is that not all family pedigrees will show this particular dot. Okay, some of them you have to sort of figure it out without giving you without the diagram itself giving you the dot. Twins are shown by a kind of a branch off particular section, and identical twins are shown by a small vertical line and then the branch off, yeah, to show that. Okay, so that's basically a diagram on some of those traits. Now, what do pedigrees tend to show? If we look at family history, pedigrees show the phenotype, and so we can determine the dominant or recessive nature of a trait from its appearances throughout the family line, and we can also figure out whether or not the trait is located on an autosome or or on a sex chromosome, whether it's X-linked or Y-linked, depending on whatever that trait is. Okay. All right. So how the video is going to work is every now and then I'm going to ask you to pause the video and see if you can try and predict the nature of the trait based on what you see, and then I'll go ahead and explain it. Okay, so here's our first sample. So hit pause on the video and see if you guys can try and figure out, is this particular trait dominant or is it recessive, and what are some of the reasons why. Now, to help you with this, it might be useful for you to actually create a few Punnett squares and try to make a prediction on the dominant or the recessive trait. Yeah, for the simplicity's sake, just use X's, capital X for dominant and lowercase x's, and see if you can cross Punnett squares with two heterozygous parents, or a homozygous dominant or recessive, and so forth, and see how you go with that. Okay, so give that a shot. All right. Okay, so how do we know whether it is autosomal dominant or, whether it's dominant or recessive? This particular trait is autosomal dominant. Now, how do we know? I am going to show you a few trends that you will see, or rules that you will see, that appear for an autosomal dominant trait, okay, particularly for a dominant trait. Now, for dominant traits, all affected individuals have to have at least one affected parent. If they do not have affected parents, like for example this particular branch over here, what that means is that because it is a dominant trait, unaffected parents must have two homozygous recessive. So if we're talking about little x's, you could say that this parent here has two little x's and therefore don't have the trait, and this individual here can be one capital X or two capital X, depending on whether they are heterozygous dominant or homozygous dominant. Okay, so if the individual is not affected, it has to be two little x's, which means all their kids will have little x's and are not affected. If an individual has the trait, then the parents, at least one of them, must have the trait. Okay. Now, how do we know that's autosomal? Usually in a large sample, you get equal portions of males and females being affected. Okay, so if you look at the ratio of males to females, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 females, 1, 2, 3, which is largely similar. Now this comes down to chance, yeah, because the proportion most likely will come to be equal in a large enough sample. If the sample is small enough, sometimes that is very difficult to determine. Now, another aspect that you should be looking for in terms of dominant traits, once it disappears from a branch, it cannot reappear, because these two individuals here have two little x's. If it's a dominant trait, they have to have little x's, right? And therefore, all of their kids will have little x's, and subsequently, if they don't intermarry with someone who has the trait, then their kids as well will have little x's as well, okay? And x, remember, is just a bit of a sample there, okay? So this one here is a dominant trait, and it is most likely autosomal because of this. Now, it's the proportions of males and females affected are equal, okay? All right, here's another one. So hit pause on the video, see how you go, and tell me whether or not this particular trait is dominant and recessive, and tell me also whether you think it's autosomal or whether it's X-linked or Y-linked, okay? Hopefully you've figured that out. If not, let's take a look. Here is an autosomal recessive condition. How do we know? The first thing hopefully that sticks out to you is that these two individuals here are not affected, right? Yet they still produce children who are affected. Yeah, these two individuals here are also not affected, but they will produce children who have that particular trait. Okay, unaffected parents can still have affected children, and the reason for that is because if it's a recessive, you can still have carriers. Okay, so even though this parent is not affected, most likely she is a carrier, so she carries one of the little X's, and then same with the father, who also would carry a little X, and that's the only way that you would have unaffected parents still have one affected child. You can see the chance here is 1 in 4, right? Very unlikely, but still possible to have a child who has affected it. Here you've got twins and 1 in 3, yeah? Now, if both parents have it, however, all the children will have it, because if it's a recessive, it's a little x, so it means that for them to have the condition, it must be little x here, and little x here, which means all the kids will have it. Yeah. So that is a very key indicator that it's a recessive condition, and usually recessive conditions are easy to pick on a family branch. How do we know that's autosomal? Once again, proportions of males to females must be the same. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. However, these are twins, so technically you can sort of count them as 5, right? And so the proportions are still relatively close to one another. Now, the key thing about this particular trait is that you can skip a generation. It can reappear in a trait, because what happens is if it doesn't skip a trait, sorry, let me go back again. So for it to skip a trait, it means that the parents are carriers for that particular trait. Their kids can have it, but if they intermarry with individuals who don't have it, you can get kids that don't have it, and then it comes and goes between generations. Yeah, so you can sort of pick from there that it's a recessive conditions. Okay. All right. Let me talk about the X-linked conditions, because they're a bit harder to pick out, but hopefully you'll be able to see them once we identify them. Okay. So vitamin D rickets in a family it's located on the XLHR9 gene on the X chromosome. Okay. And here is a pedigree showing an X-linked dominant trait. All right. So have a look at this. Hit pause on the video and tell me, what do you notice about this particular trait that separates it from a regular autosomal dominant trait? Okay. Okay. Hopefully you can pick out a few key traits. You've got this individual here who is affected. These 3 individuals, all the girls are affected. All the girls are affected. Okay. Now, it is a dominant trait, so it will exhibit the characteristics of a dominant trait. You will see kids who have it will have at least one parent who has it. Once it leaves a generation, it never comes back. So those are key characteristics of dominant traits. Affected males will pass it to all of his daughters. Now, why would that be? Because remember, in an X-linked condition, males have an X chromosome and a Y chromosome, which means if a male has it, all of his daughters will receive his X chromosome. So if it's a dominant condition and he has the condition, his girls will definitely get it, because even if mom doesn't have it, the dominant X chromosome, or the dominant kind of characteristic of that allele will get passed on to the daughters, and they will definitely get it, right? And so this male here has the condition, and therefore his daughter, all of them will have it. If even just one of them doesn't have it, let's say this one individual here does not have the trait, it will not be an X-linked dominant condition because he must pass it on to all of his daughters. Okay. Now, if the mom has it, then the daughters will have a 50% chance of getting it, similar to muscular dystrophy that you sort of saw in our kind of example earlier in the chapter. Okay. But if the dad has it, the girls will definitely get the condition. Okay. Now, females may pass it on to both daughters. Characteristics of dominant features: at least one affected parent, and if it disappears, it will not reappear. Over large samples, how do we know that it's X-linked? Females are more likely to be affected than males because of that dominance feature being inherited from fathers. Yeah, so daughters immediately inherit it from their fathers, and so more likely in a particular sample, you're going to get a higher proportion of females who are affected than males. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, if we looked at an X-linked recessive condition, however, here's a pedigree, and you'll hopefully notice a few differences here. Okay, so hit pause on the video and see if you can try and pick out some of the reasons or traits about this particular pedigree. Alright, hopefully you've had a bit of a guess, and let's see how we go. First thing you'll notice, sons are more likely to inherit it here. See? This individual, this individual, this one individual, this individual, here, here, and here are all affected, whereas there's only one girl in this particular pedigree who has it, and this has gone down 5 generations. Okay, so you can see there that sons are more likely to be affected than daughters, and the reason for that is because it is a recessive condition. Boys only have one X chromosome, and so because they only receive the X chromosome from their mum and from their dad, and they only get one X chromosome, they're more likely to show up with the trait than girls are, because for girls to get it, they need both of their X chromosomes to be recessive, or to have that recessive allele. Okay, and so all the sons of a female will be affected because the sons inherit the X chromosome from their mums, and all the daughters of the males will be carriers, right? And because the males who have it will carry on or pass that on to their daughters. They won't exhibit the trait, but they will carry the trait there. Okay, and the sons cannot inherit the conditions from their father because sons get the Y chromosome from their dads. They don't get the X chromosome. So if a dad who has it cannot pass it to his son because the son gets the Y chromosome from the dad and the X chromosome from the mum, and so they cannot get it if it's an X-linked condition because it's on the X chromosome. Okay, if both parents are affected, then all the children are affected, as you would normally get with a recessive condition. And in the large sample, you're likely to see males affected than females. Okay. All right, Y-linked pattern. Now, Y-linked pattern are a little bit different. Once again, Y-linked patterns show what we call a paternal inheritance, that is from the dad. This form of inheritance is different from an autosomal and X-linked. Basically, dads always pass it to all his sons because it's on the Y chromosome, and the sons must get the Y chromosome from the dads, and so they will all have it. So because there's only one Y chromosome as well, it's neither dominant nor recessive. Okay, there's just one chromosome, so it will have it or it doesn't have it. Okay, and so here is a large sample size to show that you've got male, 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 and only the males are getting it from this particular paternal inheritance there, right? Now, this is a little bit difficult to decipher between an X-linked dominant trait in which males are more likely to have, X-linked recessive trait in which males are more likely to inherit, and the Y-linked trait. Yeah, but the key thing that you're looking out for is that dads are passing it on to their sons, and females can't have this particular trait or disease because females don't have Y chromosomes. Okay, and so that's the key thing you're looking out for, that dads are passing on to their sons and girls don't have it. If a girl does have it, it is more likely to be an X-linked recessive pattern than a Y-linked pattern. Okay. Alright, the last one, maternal inheritance. Now, maternal inheritance is reflective of mitochondrial DNA. Now, the mitochondria has a small segment of its own DNA, and because females are the ones that sort of provide the egg whereas males provide the sperm, the egg contains all of the organelles other than that other half of the DNA within the nucleus, right? And so the mitochondria will then only be passed on from moms to daughters, to granddaughters, etc. Okay, so that mitochondrial DNA only shows maternal inheritance. If there is a particular condition on the mitochondrial DNA, then mums will pass it on to their daughters and only their daughters. Okay. All affected females will transfer it to her children because her children will inherit her mitochondria, right? And males cannot pass the trait on, and only females can. So now you're seeing the reverse, right? So males in this particular case can get it. See, mums will pass it on to all her kids, right? And the males can get it, but they can't pass it on, and so they can still get it because they get their mitochondria from their mom, but they can't pass that particular trait on because this individual here will pass her mitochondria to her kids and not the dad. Okay, and so this individual here is a girl, and so all her children will be affected, right? And what you're looking for is, in general, the sample size will be equal in proportion. However, dads will never pass the trait on to their kids, and that's what you're looking for to show the difference. Okay. Alright, so it might take a bit of time to get your head around it, and it might be worth having a look at some of these Punnett squares and drawing them up to be able to confirm some of these traits that you're seeing, and to give yourself a bit of time to recognize the difference between one trait or another. What I'm expecting is that you are able to look at a particular pedigree and determine its trait, or the best possible outcome of the trait, as a result of what you see on the pedigree. Okay. So that's pretty much it for chapter 16, and guess what? That's pretty much it for all of your year 11 biology content. Okay, we're basically finishing up there, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this video series and have learned something really cool from it. Okay, alright, I'll see you guys later.